I'll give my number, just pretend, but I don't get my orders.
All right. Hello, everybody. Glad to be here. I'll speak through how we can connect Drupal and other web stack with Google Docs, which is not the usual Drupal conference topic, but I think there's a lot of power there. I'm Senior Director of Product at Pantheon. I've been there for a little bit over a year now. I've been spending basically almost 3 decades in CMS. So I've been around, and I'm less of an infrastructure guy, so don't ask me about the Pantheon infrastructure and hosting. I'm more of a really CMS and application level type of guy. I'm actually leading a small team at Pantheon, which is developing some innovation. So we are currently with a product which is beta, private beta, so we are far ahead. I'm not here to sell anything because actually it's not ready to be sold. It will be sooner than later, and probably by the end of the year, just to be clear. But I'm here to talk about the product, the problem we try to solve here. So one thing that I regularly face in my career in CMS is that after 30 years of CMS, we keep getting to the same problem that actually when we roll out a new website or just a campaign or just a new product or just a rebrand, there's always a lot of friction between all the persons and personas and people and team involved. There are some content editors working in Microsoft Word. We are in Microsoft, I should say this instead of Google Docs. There are some designers working in Figma. There are some developers in Drupal, of course, and marketers in Asana. And it's still very disconnected. The business software world came to a point where everything is really connected, and it's normal to have data flowing from systems to systems and to have a very automated experience. When it comes to content is extremely complex, and we are still very manual. We get a lot of people writing in Google Docs and copy-pasting in some very unfriendly form to their understanding in Drupal. They need to be trained. And so that's a little bit like, we see this a little bit like the Stone Age of content management. After 30 years, we still have many more to do so that we can streamline the process. We miss some sort of democratization of content management. And I think now where we are with first cloud-first technology, APIs, and also Gen AI that can help, I think it's a good time to revisit that and to see if we can make some substantial progress in delivering this. And this actually aligns really well. I'm not here to sell Pantheon again, but it's still, the reason we do that at Pantheon is that it's at the core of the WebOps vision of Pantheon. Even if, I don't know what you think Pantheon is, just a host. I think Zach, Josh, and the team, at the very beginning, their idea was a platform for the web team, which includes content, design, and dev, a platform to work in a workflow which is streamlined and facilitated by the platform. So that's why we developed this. I should put my timer because I'm known for going a little bit beyond. So before answering this question, I'd love to make this a little bit interactive, and I'm actually happy to take questions during the talk. How much of you are developers here? How much are more content governance or project management, and how much are pure editorial? I know. Okay, so I mean, it's a good mix, but the solution, we are trying to solve a solution both for editors and also governance. It's a lot about governance. So when we asked our customers, where does content collaboration actually happen? They all say it's happening in Google Docs. There's been a big shift in the last 10 years. Not only Google Docs, a little bit of Microsoft as well, but really, we did a survey with our customer base before I arrived, orchestrated by Zach, and there was, I think, 90% of Google Docs plus MS Words. And I think among these, like a good 60% of this was Google Docs. So a lot of the collaboration when it comes to creating editorial content, it's happening there for several reasons. First, it's cloud first, which was a revolution 15 years ago, and they came with really pushing the envelope with Google Docs. The other one is they really simplified access control, permissions. It's just so easy to collaborate. I often compare this as how GitHub transformed the workflow for developers. It got very easy for developers to work. I don't know if when I started, version control for software was a disaster. You had to lock your thing, you had to use systems which were really unfriendly. Now we have GitHub and it works really well. So Google Docs answer part of the equation, which is authoring, but it doesn't answer transforming editorial textual content into something which is for the web. And it's complex. So that's what we are working on. One of our big vision when it comes to solving this problem is to meet the web team users where they like to work. So that's really this idea, and we started here basically 15 years ago, meet developers where they really want to work. Where do they want to work? Well, Drupal and WordPress, and that's why we have this in our portfolio. And they work on Git. And it took us a little bit of time, but we understood finally that they work in GitHub a lot, so we should make it easier for them to work GitHub to Pantheon. So this is coming in our platform. So this is well covered. Content people, they work in different tools, Google Docs, Notion, MS Word, and that's now what we are trying to tackle, basically. So that's a little bit our kind of North Star, getting to this point where all the web team could collaborate with tools, which are the tools they choose, and having a workflow which is really facilitated by that. So for that, we started to develop this tool, which is in beta now, which is called Content Publisher. And so what is it exactly? It's basically a SaaS service, which is here, which is connecting the left side of the story, basically where content is created, to the right side of the story where content is delivered to customers. So we started with Google Docs, but our vision would be to embrace other authoring systems down the road. I mentioned Word, of course, because it's a natural candidate, Notion, Obsidian, Markdown tools, and also design tools. The thing with web, and why is it complex, is that content on the web is actually always composite. It's always made of a lot of things that you bring together. Digital assets, tagging, metadata that you need to attach to your content. So it's not as simple as taking the body of a Google Docs and putting it on the website. You need to do a lot of things that actually relates to governance. Preparing, assembling, organizing. Each time I speak about this dream of basically bridging Google Docs to the website, people say, wow, you're crazy. There's so many things to be done on the web. You've never worked with SEO teams, with stuff like that. It's not that simple. No, it's not. That's why, actually. So we are building this middleware which on one hand connect through APIs to those tools, and on the other hand connect to websites, technology. So the one that we can run on Pantheon, of course, so again, Drupal, WordPress, Next.js, but honestly, Pantheon is a very open-minded company. It's also any website, because at the end of the day, it's a headless type of access, so it's a GraphQL endpoint. So with Content Publisher, we offer basically a middleware. I call it a content integration service, which can capture content somewhere and expose it in a very composed way for websites to consume it. So very similar to some sort of a headless CMS, but totally different in the approach that we don't want to bring the editor in the interface of the CMS. We just want to actually find them where they are, where they create content. I will do a quick demo now to show you, but I'm actually weirdly super stressed about doing a demo today because I'm not demoing. Maya asked me to record, so I'm doing nothing, which should make me comfortable, but it's kind of awkward for me to speak. So I spinned up basically a Drupal site on Pantheon, and I have a Drupal site that has been installed, and I will make my demo on this. It's been used with Pantheon, but again, it could use anything. And I just installed a module because we developed a specific module. We don't ask Drupal developer to go and query the GraphQL. So you have to install a module, and I'll speak about that. But now I'll focus on the editorial experience. So as I mentioned, people work in Google Docs. That's an example of a Google Doc. I will actually pause this. Can I? It's restarting. That's where the demo starts to be difficult. So, interesting. Okay, I'm in my Google Doc. That's where collaboration happens. That's where a lot of things like commenting, but also approving. There's a lot of tools that allows you to actually go quite far into the governance side of shaping content for the web in Google Docs. So I have my team here. It's actually me and myself with my Gmail account, but it could be 100 people. I want to connect this to a website. So the first thing I have to mention is that it's fairly straightforward from an editorial standpoint, but you have to install this add-on to Google Docs. So you go on the Google Marketplace and you install this add-on. As an editor, once you have done this, if your organization, your company as basically a content publisher, as an account and content publisher, you will be able to go in your Google Doc, click on the content publisher add-on, which is right here, and connect your document to content publisher, which is, I think, what's going to happen here. Again, that's where the demo is really awkward because I'm doing it here. I connect to what we call a content collection, which will be connected to one website, or possibly many. We have this concept of collection because actually a website could have several different collections of content that is mostly, if you think about it, from a user standpoint, that's what defines if you should do one collection or several collections. Higher ed, we have some customers that would have some departments which are totally separated, even with different Google Workspace, and they might have different collections. So now I'm connecting my document on this dev town hall. I click connect, and I just show you that it's a Drupal one. I will speed up a little bit the flow. Now that's done. Now I will show you more of the editorial features. There's a bunch of things. I don't show everything, but I will start by showing you, which is very important to me, the ability from Google Docs to preview how your content would behave on that specific destination and that specific website. So I'll go on the preview link just to launch what we call the real-time preview, which is coming here. Perfect. Voila. Loading the real-time preview. When you do this, you will actually have a preview. As you can see, this is Drupal. You have the little hamburger over there. So this is how my content will behave in Drupal. Actually, it's not just a static preview, it's a real-time preview. So you will see that I will open different things. I will first open a side panel where I have actually my Google Doc experience, and I can type at the same time and change things. And I can have actually 100% connected and typing in there, and all sharing the same preview link, and all working on the same preview. So that's where concurrent editing really is getting a lot of power. So I will go there, and I will just add some things. I will add a heading. I will add some content. I will approve some content, and you will see that all this is happening basically real time in your preview. So it's a tool to really have a very good and exact ideas of how my content edited in Google Docs will behave on the web. I'm jumping on my personal account to just show that I'm approving some content, and you will see here that the content is getting automatically updated. I can change this image of Nadal for another one which I like better, and automatically this is moving. I can add some alt text because those images needs to be SEO friendly. I can wrap text around the images and so on. So I have a lot of control basically, which can happen in that tool. I think I'm now playing a little bit here with the positioning of the image, which is super hard to do actually, but we managed to grab this from Google Docs. We support most of the formatting for the images from Google Doc, the styles, not and we share them. So now I will just add a caption and an alt tag, which is also coming for accessibility. It's super important, coming from Google Docs. So that's the real-time editing and previewing of the content. The next thing I want to show is actually, I will close this, and I will show you all the things which are enriching content, which is metadata. So the big difference with Google Docs is that actually it's Google Doc++. We actually add a layer of structure on top of Google Docs, which is a schema of metadata, which can be converted in anything you want in Drupal or in any CMS. This is pure structured content management. So you define your own schema in your collection, and you will be able to use this and to connect this to Gen AI. So for instance, description is a mandatory field for any web page, and that's super important for SEO. We connect this to the LLM, which can, in the context of the article and of your collection, suggest the best description that it thinks is, as options of course, It's suggestions always. We don't take Gen AI as a dictator, but more as a tool that you can use as an editor to govern your choices. But you're saving time, basically, and if you don't like it, you don't have to use it. Same with tagging, same with choosing images into a vector database, same with many things. So, meta information, super key. When you are done with that, you have other things such as formatting check and components and so on, but basically, to keep it short, I think I will go straight to show the publish experience, which is straightforward. Even if it's headless, it's really working directly. So now I have a last screen, again with a real-time preview, where I can adjust a few things in my meta and so on. I actually can change the slug, because this slug was very ugly, and I just will save this and publish. I guess I just forgot. Even when I don't do it, I make mistakes. And I publish, and I'm live, and it's now living on Drupal. So that's my article, and it's published. That's for the video, the first video. Up. How much time do I have? Just checking on the time. I'm good. It's going fast, but I forgot in my video that I recorded before, so I added a slide. That's explaining a lot of the value, actually. This is typically something that I should have done. I should have put my heading in big, red, and Comic Sans, because as an editor, I'm sure it's really important, so I want to do that. So the last thing we want Content Publisher is to be that tool that would let editors to do anything. Absolutely not. So what's happening in the work we do is not like save as HTML, where everything you do in Google Docs will go. What's happening is a real normalization of content, and the design system is dictated by the website, by Drupal. It's not dictated by Google Doc or Content Publisher. Content Publisher is structuring and organizing the content, but clearly this is actually highlighted as a warning in the little content check that was on the right, and it's not allowed to, it's not passed to the website. And the same goes with many other things that we identified as things which are not structure, which are not pseudo-semantic tagging, but which are pure style, because there's nothing, that it should not come from the editor in our standpoint. Okay, so this tool we've been working on since a year. We have a Drupal module, we have a WordPress plugin, we have, of course, a Next.js starter kit and SDK. Today it's EvolveDrupal, so it's a little bit more leaning toward the Drupal side. The other thing is that we just re-released the Drupal module. We took a totally different approach. Did anybody knew about Content Publisher before, by the way? Because we have a beta running. Yeah? You knew? So we had a first module which was taking a very simplistic approach to integrating in Drupal. It was basically using the view system and directly connecting the GraphQL endpoint and placing it in the view system without considering this as real Drupal content. We redeveloped the module in April. We teamed up with a core developer, a Drupal core developer, and we took a totally different approach where actually we are now providing a real standard Drupal developer experience for anyone who would like to manipulate content coming from Google Docs. So content is actually managed in the search API as entities, and you can basically use it the way you want. You can search this content and regular Drupal content together, which was not possible before. And your way of developing with it is basically standard Drupal development. When our first plugin that we had first released last year was very much just, you have a simple way to pull this content in Drupal in a simplistic way, but you couldn't do much. So the Drupal is on Drupal.org, and the module is on Drupal.org and is available for people who want to try it. It's a few words about how you could try it. The install process is fairly simple. You first need to install two things. Solar Search. You can use Pantheon Search, or you can use regular Solar Search. And then you need to install the Content Publisher module. This one works. The second thing is you need to go in the Content Publisher dashboard. There's a whole dashboard for content managers. And in there, you will basically just create a token to have a secure access between your Drupal and RSAS, basically. You will use that to configure in Drupal the connectivity with the plugin. So now I'm in Drupal, and I'm basically giving my access token. I'm giving it a name. I will give the token or the key if you want. And and I will just save my collection. And after that, I will configure my collection, define which fields from my metadata and my document I can be exposing to Drupal for developers to use, and then that will be it, basically. So one module to install, a little bit of configuration to retrieve credential on Content Publisher, and then just configuring that collaboration, that integration on Drupal. And the last thing is, once this is done, basically your content coming from Google Docs will appear here as external entities, which are manageable right there. And you could add as many collections as you want. So how we see this in real case use cases is typically a Drupal website could have several collections that delegate content management to Google Docs for specific content types. But it needs to be important that this is not a tool that we foresee as being used for the whole site. Like there are landing pages or home pages or some content types where you're happy if it's all about users. If the users who are supposed to create them are part of the web team or managing landing pages, it totally makes sense that they use Drupal. This is for the content that you think the creators actually would benefit from working directly in Google Docs. So typically, super cool for the news and publishing, where you have journalists who work natively there and who don't care too much actually about presentation layer. They care mostly about the story, actually. Architecture, to give you an idea, it's a SaaS first, API first tool. So actually, content creation side for now, we support Google Docs. We have other plans. I spoke about that. This all goes through an open API, and we have an ingest API. I want to mention this, even if this is not too technical, but this is to say that if today you use Word or Obsidian or something else, you can actually develop a similar integration, because this is an open API, an ingest API. So you could plug any authoring tool, basically. When we ingest content goes into as Markdown and a tree, a JSON tree, basically, into Firestore. But we also index this with Vertex AI, which is the Google Search Enterprise Search, the new name, and which is plugged to LLMs. So we can plug this to Gemini or your own models, if you want, to provide all the Gen AI assistance. And then all this is basically provided as a GraphQL API for our JavaScript SDK, our Drupal module, our WordPress plugin, and any site capable of using GraphQL, basically. That's the architecture. Use cases, again, those are early adopters. We've seen news media, of course, can be a big revolution for their workflow. We are working with a range of publishers where they are really trying to transform their editorial workflow, basically, and they need to go to solutions of that kind, which can really save clicks. We've been having quite some positive feedback from our beta users in iRead, and there's a range of people, even people managing microsites and who don't want to learn the CMS, that can benefit from that and having basically templates that are ready to go. It can also be very useful for corporate communication, large scale. I'm not talking about pixel perfect landing pages. I'm more talking about websites who have a lot of documentation about their product offering, thinking guys like Nokia or like very broad product portfolios, basically. And also we have, of course, at Pantheon, we do a lot of things with local gov and gov in general, so we have a lot of also good feedback on that. So that's about it, I think. It's in beta if you're curious about it and playing with it. It's actually, I mean, no commitment at all, but we are happy to welcome people in the beta. So you can always either scan this or reach me or reach anyone at Pantheon, basically. And yeah, that's the problem we try to solve, trying to meet the web team where users where they work. Am I good with time, by the way? I have no idea.
We're a little over, but it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So a few questions.
Yeah. So I'm presuming that for like headers, for instance, like if you're using an H1 or H2, H3 on the Google Doc, it's translating that on the Drupal site to the style that you have for H2, H3, etc.
Absolutely.
So it makes that last time made a lot of sense, because my big question throughout the presentation was, it seems like if I had a page with like a 3 across component or something where it's a little more structured or organized, you can't really necessarily, you can approximate it in Google Docs, but to me, I was like, how could it process that? And it seems like it's more for like articles. Do you foresee any future where it could potentially understand something like a table in Google Docs and
Yes.
translate that to a component in
Absolutely. We have a bunch of things actually, and this is moving very fast. To be honest, we have a small team, but moving very fast. If you go on our user guide here, finally I'm doing a real demo. This is a little bit of a work in progress, but this is telling you of what we consider as semi-structure, because that's how I call it. Those are tags. So all the headings, including some weird thing which is only in Google Docs, which is called subtitle. All those things we support. We support something. We've been developing something because there was a big pain point, converting table to responsive grids. So we basically have a web style that I can show you, but you highlight a piece in your Google Docs, you apply a web style, and your table will be basically converted in a responsive grid, where you can let the design system decide of the breakpoint, but that's what you do basically. The same thing with elements like how you crop images or how you wrap images around. This was fairly complicated, what we support in terms of positioning of the images with text. And at first we thought we don't need that, but actually people do need that. So we had to work hard to understand how Google is structuring this in their format, and we do support much more than flat text basically.
Yeah, so like if I had like an article, but I had like on the page I wanted to have like a little sidebar in a red box that said something,
Yeah.
I would theoretically apply a style in Google
Exactly.
Docs, like call out, and then it would translate that to like however that is presented.
Yeah,
On the
it's either elements or inline. You basically select a piece in your Google Docs, you click on the right on something we call the pseudo-semantic style, and it will apply what has been defined on your web design system. So this is basically connecting both, but it's not giving the freedom to the editor to define what it should be.
Right.
It's controlled still, so that's very important.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need to
Yeah.
stop it there.
Sorry.
It's not coming, but
We can take it after. Yeah. Thank you.
I would have questions as well.